The next speaker is Ashley Mauritzen. I hope I pronounce it well. And she's a freelance commercial semiotician, passionate about digital culture, luxury, and living in London. So she's worked with many of the agencies that are present here today, and she's also the editor of a leading-edge fashion magazine called Let Them Eat Cake. The title of the presentation today is Fake is the New Real. So, Ashley.
Thank you. Where's the click? Thank you. Marvelous. I'm a bit laden down, so I'm going to quickly move some furniture around. How do I work this?
Down and up.
Okie dokes. Marvelous. Right. Hello, everybody. Yes, as Vladimir just said, very interesting that I should. Oh, right. Threw itself off the table with excitement. I should be talking about fakery, given what preceded this. So I'd like to talk about fake, and the emergence of fake is a vital aesthetic in its own right, and not merely a poor imitation of real. This is an emerging trend, and it requires a lot more thinking, but it's one I'm excited about, which is why I decided to present it to you today. Today I will be focusing primarily on fashion, pop, and digital culture, but I am confident that the trend I'm exploring extends into other areas beyond. Similarly, whilst my examples are mostly sourced from the UK and US, I believe the cult of artifice to be global in both origin and implication. There we go. Yeah? Could you do it for me? Well, if you just, every time I do this, just go on to the next one, that would be great. Sure. Thank you. Okay, marvelous, right. So, to begin at the beginning, by examining exactly how it was that we ended up here. And our journey, as with all great 21st century trends, inevitably begins online. Because when we started playing around online, we began to consciously externalize the projected self. The image we present to the world has, of course, always been a construct. But for the first time, we became truly aware of this and of the potential it contains for experimentation. From role-player games to Facebook, increasingly arguably a role-player game in its own right, people were suddenly, thoughtfully cultivating one or multiple fictionalized selves. Persona became brand, and with this came obsession. Self or selves obsession, nowhere more apparent than in the phenomenon that is the selfie, or for more precocious digital natives, the selfsy. As is so often the case, this newfound awareness quickly moved offline, resulting in a sudden widespread interest in identity play. Take, for example, the sudden popularity of dress-up. From fancy dress club nights to cosplay, as mentioned earlier, where attendees dress up as their favorite characters for comic book conventions, to the popularity of Kigu animal-shaped onesies, pictured here at yet another British music festival. And this isn't a niche trend. America's Home Shopping Network released a True Blood makeup range in 2012, inspired by the popular HBO show, which proved most successful with American women in their 50s. Elsewhere, makeup brand Illamasqua has quickly established a wide following with its slogan, "Release your alter ego." And another cosmetic brand, MAC, regularly releases limited edition sets inspired by its favorite pop icons, from Hello Kitty to Cindy Sherman to the inimitable Elton John. Yet more compelling still is the adoption of identity play into everyday dress. A recent shoot in the US Nylon magazine offers 3 different beauty looks, inspired by 3 different New York locales. A punk look for St. Mark's Place, a vintage look for Cat's Deli, and an urban look for West 4th basketball courts. In China, model Louis Wen is known for alternating tomboyish, vintage, and more conventionally feminine styles. Meanwhile, the basement of London's flagship Topshop store promises an experience that feels less like shopping for an outfit and more like shopping for a persona, be that sailor, spaceman, or urban cowboy. Identity play, however, is about a lot more than pretending to be someone else. Because with a digital invitation to externalize and experiment with a projected self comes a new aesthetic, namely mashup. Now, I'm sure we've all heard a lot about mashup, goodness knows I have, but I'd like to take a moment to think about exactly what it is that mashup is doing. Mashup is the inevitable byproduct of the heaving maelstrom of signifiers that is the internet, of the sudden amalgamation of manifold creative voices given access to free content, the tools to manipulate it, and the audience ready to, if they're lucky, pay attention. What began as YouTube videos of He-Man singing What's Up by 80s girl group The Four Non-Blondes has evolved into a legitimate aesthetic popular with everyone from pop stars to high-end fashion brands. Take, for example, this Spring-Summer 13 fashion film, Pretty Paid Proenza by New York luxury label Proenza Schuler, which featured SpongeBob SquarePants, poor JonBenet Ramsey, and somewhat inevitably a lot of cats. What began as an idle, humorous pursuit for bored teenagers has become one of the defining styles of the early 21st century. Offline, mashup has also gained traction, most notably through a pick and mix approach to consumption. Sartorially, this is most notable in the hipster meccas of Williamsburg, Berlin, and East London, where bright young things combine apparently random items of clothing to create their own unique style. Take this American blogger, top left corner, who in the picture featured combines military, urban, tailored, and girlish signs. Or in the bottom left, we've got a photo of my friend John William, pictured here in the decadence of velvet, the gentlemanly utility of plaid, resolutely working class boots, butch grooming, and a rather effeminate stance. This pick and mix approach adopted by these two extends increasingly into the mainstream. Multicolored and even patterned fingernails are a popular accessory in both Britain and the US, while the name necklace, bottom right corner, encapsulates the drive towards in-your-face self-expression. Forward-thinking brands have been quick to embrace this new approach to image construction by offering more choice and variation, allowing consumers to pick and choose, whether this be the multicolored range of mobiles offered by Motorola, notice how each cover cues a different setting, or the stated intention of H&M Offspring, fashion retailer, and other stores to create diversified fashion collections designed to help women tell their own stories. They encourage styling before dressing and refer to individual items as ingredients. Tellingly, the And Other Stories website uses Pinterest-style paneling because the power of mashup lies in the recasting of consumer as curator. Mashup effectively disassociates signifier and signified. Its meaning is cumulative. This isn't self-expression through identification with a sign, it's self-expression through choice and assemblage. Right, to really understand this and its implications, I would like to look at the pop star Kyari Pamu Pamu. Between you and me, probably the greatest pop musician who's ever lived, by far and away my favorite karaoke turn, and as a result, the cover star of this presentation. Kyari, of course, comes from Japan, a country with a long tradition of role play on the streets of Harajuku. Yet Kyari is like no Harajuku star before. Even for a Harajuku kid, her personal style is extreme, taking the symbolic dislocation that characterizes the movement to new lengths. She doesn't just mimic and juxtapose different styles. She completely transcends them, sporting everything from onions to eyeballs. Her music videos are pure surrealism, a maelstrom of dislocated cultural signifiers, psychedelic shapes, and Illuminati symbolism. They are the ultimate realization of mashup culture. The end result, as both critics and admirers have observed, is pointedly empty. To quote one blogger, she has no social agenda, no cultural agenda, and no political agenda. Her videos are a celebration of surface, utterly and gloriously devoid of meaning. So for some of the older generation, this might be a bit confusing, because Because, after all, signs once used to mean something. Yet, even more baffling than this dislocated cacophony is the ability of millennials to enjoy cultural output that they know to be inauthentic. Authenticity remains for many an important discourse, synonymous with independent and even good. The ongoing controversy surrounding American pop star Lana Del Rey and her handcrafted vintage persona pretensions is an ideal example of this conflict. Avowedly indie publications criticize her manufactured image as subverting their own ideals and reproducing the evils of pop. Yet, contrary to this stance, many younger consumers couldn't care less that Lana's image is manufactured, or about the fact that the hip-hop troupe Odd Future stages its shocking homemade videos. Nor are they perturbed by Iggy Azalea's determination to rap with a southern accent despite being from Australia. The digital generation, it would seem then, is capable of investing in and deriving meaning from signs that they know to be false or misleading. This capacity to enjoy a lie involves a highly sophisticated form of doublethink. Take Instagram filters. In the relentless progress towards better and more meaningful self-documentation, vintage filters play a vital role. They invest the now with the profundity of the past, a new kind of intense personal nostalgia. Of course, nobody believes that that sepia image of a dog skateboarding has been pulled out of a family album, but it doesn't make it any less effective. In the same way, French fashion label Vière 5 produces pieces that look as if they had been designed by a friend or found somewhere. They haven't been. The aim is to enable an emotional connection with an article of clothing, hence the natural lighting and hand-drawn scrawl on this image here. It's pure pretension, but the results feel the same. I do not, however, mean to imply that millennials turn to artifice purely in pursuit of emotional engagement. Because what the digital generation has realized that is once you stop worrying about what and what isn't real and start enjoying it, fake is a lot of fun. Firstly, there's the opportunity it provides for extravagance and experimentation. London hair salon Bleach, some of whose styles are pictured here, specializes in what it calls My Little Pony hair, coming in shades that include awkward peach, washed up mermaid, blue leanie, and rosé. Tongue-in-cheek, highly intertextual nomenclature is typical of the trend at large, as is a somewhat why not attitude. Tattoos, once the property of sailors, bad boys, and outsiders, have lost their social stigma. Ink, in countless shades, is sported by everyone from teen pop icons like Harry Styles and Justin Bieber to family man and British national treasure David Beckham. And I'm not talking blue tribal armbands either. The current trend in London's East End is towards luridly coloured depictions of pop cultural icons, from soap stars to Yogi Bear. In keeping with this playful spirit is the deliberate ambiguity of much fakery. The viewer is challenged to question just what it is they're looking at. Take, for example, Lady Gaga's iconic bow-shaped hairdo by Charlie Lamindu, who in his Fashion Week collections continues to blur the line between hair and hat. At fashion's extreme are popular male models Andrew Pajic and Rick Ginest, more commonly known as Zombie Boy, both pictured here in an image from Australian label Auslander's Spring-Summer 12 campaign. The former is famous for his androgynous look, just one of many ambiguously gendered models to become popular since 2010, known in fashion circles as the Year of the Transsexual. The latter, who became famous through a series of campaigns for Thierry Mugler, is known for his full-body skeleton tattoo, a representation of something vitally real, reframed as surface. For many brands and individuals, ambiguity, however, is not enough, and fakery is deliberately and humorously dwelt on and exposed. Take, for example, the humorous logos that characterize the streetwear of Brian Lichtenberg. His designer remixes include feline instead of Celine, Gucci instead of Gucci, and most famously, Hermes instead of Hermes, all printed to imitate the original and immediately recognizable font. The crudity of these spin-offs makes them highly parodic. They're funny precisely because they're not very good. More seriously, they contain an implied criticism of logo-driven consumption, a fixation with status symbols that seems horribly outdated when compared with the new emphasis on finding your own style. There is also a story here around copyright, an attempt to blur the lines of intellectual property that is formidably Web 2.0. In the context of this, brands become a different kind of signifier, one subject to reappropriation and interpretation. So far, so hip, which is why I'd like to take a moment to remind us that fakery has never been more mainstream. Take a look at these images, one from US show Jersey Shore, and the other from its British equivalent, The Only Way is Essex. That's the top two. Both center on a group of glamorous 20-somethings, distinctive for their chaotic love lives and wacky-tacky porn aesthetic. They sport fake hair, fake lashes, fake tans, fake noses, fake boobs, and fake nails. And that's just the girls. Yet this look is no longer the preserve of flailing pop stars and footballers' wives, as the images below prove. The one on the bottom left shows the cast of Made in Chelsea, which follows the adventures of high society folk. And the other shows the 2013 female contestants of business competition The Apprentice. Clearly, class and professional credentials are no longer incongruous with hair extensions and a heavy spray tan. More subtly, The Only Way is Essex, Made in Chelsea, and Jersey Shore are all self-proclaimed scripted reality shows. Yet the awkward balancing act this involves between emotional credulity and rational skepticism doesn't faze contemporary viewers. It might indeed actively stimulate them. There is no testimony more powerful to the hold that fakery has over the popular imagination today than the proliferation of spectacular illusions. From projection mapping to prop-heavy immersive theatrical experiences, like those hosted by Punch Drunk, pictured here in the top left corner. The contemporary city, colorful and highly interactive, is increasingly repositioned as surface, the physical world playing host to the capacity for whimsy and imaginative wish fulfillment so abundant online. So where does it go? Well, perhaps for the best idea of this, we should look to South Korea, where, confronted with the speed of modern life and a dramatic lack of space, digitally constructed images open new dimensions in real-world locations. They may be artifice, but they perform the function of something more substantial. And once the excitement and the experimentation and the revelry is done with, it's in this blur that we see the way ahead. I don't want to show the last slide. I don't have anything to say about it.
Well,